Hello, and welcome back to Mythical Meanderings, and I hope you're having a very good fall so far, a very good Halloween season. I know I am. It's been a little brisk here. We've been having funny weather where I am in Canada recently, so the weather doesn't really know how to make up its mind, but definitely been getting those fall vibes. So I wanted to make a video kind of themed around the season or related to the season, and also hopefully just a relaxing video for any time of year. So welcome to my corner here. I thought today we could maybe read a couple of stories that are a little spooky or just fun, have some chats, hang out. So if you're down for that, if you're into fall as much as I am into Halloween, then welcome. Hopefully this is a good video for you. So I'm sitting here chilling with my Halloween mug, sipping some fine coffee. Extra dark roast. And I thought maybe we could read a story together. Now, the story's from the Mabinogion, which I have mentioned before. I mentioned it in my King Arthur Celtic book collection. And the specific tale I wanted to read was of Aran and Pwyll. Now I just have to find it. So this story kind of came to me as something that might be good to read because it's very much themed after the underworld. Aran is the Celtic Brythonic king of Annuin, the Celtic otherworld, or kind of like a heaven or an underworld. He was a character, Aran, I believe in a anime or some kind of series. And in that series, he's far more based on like demons or Abrahamic Satan than he was actually in history. In history, he seems to be quite a just and calm ruler of the underworld. And this story is about him and Pwyll having an unexpected run-in and how they kind of deal with that and make amends. So this is called Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed. Fair warning, I'm not Welsh. Some of my pronunciations will come from an audiobook I've been listening to of this. So if that narrator pronounce things right, then I will sometimes. But overall, my pronunciations are not to be taken as good. Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, was lord of the 7 cantrevs of Dyfed, and once upon a time was at Narbeth, his chief palace, and he was minded to go and hunt. And the part of his dominions in which it pleased him to hunt was Glyn Cush. So he set forth from Narbeth that night, and went as far as Wyn Deirwyd. And that night he tarried there, and early in the morrow he rose and came to Glyn Cush. Then he let loose the dogs in the wood, and sounded the horn, and began the chase. And as he followed the dogs, he lost his companions. And whilst he listened to the hounds, he heard the cry of other hounds, a cry different from his own, and coming in the opposite direction. And he beheld a glade in the wood, forming a level plain, and his dogs came to the edge of the glade. He saw a stag before the other dogs, and lo, as it reached the middle of the glade of the dogs, the dogs that followed the stag overtook it and brought it down. Then looked he at the colour of the dogs, staying not to look at the stag. And all of the hounds that he had seen in the world, he had never seen any that were like unto these. For their hair was of a brilliant shining white, and their ears were red. And as the whiteness of their bodies shone, so did the redness of their ears glisten. And he came towards the dogs, and drove away those that had brought down the stag, and set his own dogs upon it. And as he was setting on his dogs, he saw a horseman coming towards him upon a large light grey steed, with a hunting horn round his neck, and clad in garments of grey woolen, in the fashion of a hunting garb. And the horseman drew near and spoke unto him thus: Chieftain, said he, I know who thou art, and I greet thee not. Peradventure, said Pwyll, thou art of such dignity that thou shouldst not do so. Verily, answered he, it is not my dignity that prevents me. What is it then, O chieftain? Asked Pwyll. By heaven, it is by reason of thine own ignorance and want of courtesy. What discourtesy, chieftain, hast thou seen in me? Greater discourtesy saw I never in man, said he, than to drive away the dogs that were killing the stag, and to set upon it thine own. This was discourteous. And though I may not be revenged upon thee, yet I declare to heaven that I will do thee more dishonour than the value of 100 stags. O chieftain, he replied, if I have done ill, I will redeem thy friendship. How wilt thou redeem it? According as thy dignity may be, but I know not who thou art. A crowned king am I in the land whence I come, said Arawn. Lord, said he, may the day prosper with thee, and from what land dost thou come? From Annuin, answered he. Arawn, king of Annuin, am I. Lord, said he, how may I gain thy friendship? After this manner mayest thou, he said. There is a man whose dominions are opposite to mine, who is ever warring against me. He is Havgon, a king of Annuin, and by ridding me of this oppression, which thou can easily do, shalt thou gain my friendship. Gladly will I do this, said he. Show me how I may. I will show thee. Behold, thus it is thou mayest. And I will give thee the fairest lady thou didst ever behold to be thy companion. Apologies, I missed a line. I will make firm friendship with thee, and this will I do. I will send thee to Annuin in my stead, and I will give thee the fairest lady thou didst ever behold to be thy companion, and I will put my form and semblance upon thee, so that not a page of the chamber, nor an officer, nor any other man that has always followed me shall know that it is not I. And this shall be for the space of a year from tomorrow. And then we will meet in this place. Yes, said he, but when I shall have been there for the space of a year, by what means shall I discover of him whom thou speakest? 1 year from this night, he answered, is the time fixed between him and me that we should meet at the ford. Be thou in my likeness, and with one stroke that thou givest him, he shall no longer live. And if he ask thee to give him another, give it not, how much soever he may entreat thee. For when I did so, he fought me the next day, as well as ever before. Verily, said Pwyll, what shall I do concerning my kingdom? Said Arawn, I will cause that no one in all thy dominions, neither man nor woman, shall know that I am not thou, and I will go there in thy stead. Gladly then, said Pwyll, will I set forward. Clear shall be thy path, and nothing shall detain thee, until thou come into my dominions, and I myself will be thy guide. So he conducted him until he came in sight of the palace and its dwellings. Behold, said he, the court and the kingdom in thy power. Enter the court, there is no one there who will know thee, and when thou seest what service is done there, thou wilt know the customs of the court. So, a quick recap for anyone who's kind of confused or just would like a recap. Pwyll was hunting in the woods, and he was hunting a stag. And right as he saw the stag, he saw a bunch of dogs that didn't belong to him taking the stag down in the woods. These dogs were very strange. They had very white fur and red ears. And he sicked his own dogs on the stag and shooed away the strange dogs. Then out of the woods came Arawn, a proud-looking man and a king, and it turns out the red-eared dogs were his. And so he asks Pwyll to make an answer for this offense, and they agree that to make amends, Pwyll will pose as Arawn in the underworld for a year. Will look just like him. Everyone will think it's him, but it's actually Pwyll. And vice versa, Arawn will pose as Pwyll in the overworld for a year. Pwyll, in a year's time, will be responsible for killing Arawn's rival, and then deal done. Which is quite a deal. Also, the text is very small, so if you see me kind of squinting sometimes, that's why. That's just uncomfortable. Let's see. So he went forward to the court, and when he came there, he beheld sleeping rooms, and halls, and chambers, and the most beautiful buildings ever seen. And he went into the hall to disarray, and there came youths and pages, and disarrayed him. And all as they entered saluted him. And 2 knights came and drew his hunting dress from about him, and clothed him in a vesture of silk and gold. And the hall was prepared, and behold, he saw the household and the host enter in. and the host was the most comely and the best equipped that he had ever seen. And with them came in likewise the queen, who was the fairest woman that he had ever yet beheld. And she had on a yellow robe of shining satin. And they washed and went to the table, and sat, the queen upon one side of him, and one who seemed to be an earl on the other side. And he began to speak with the queen, and he thought from her speech that she was the seemliest and most noble lady of converse and of cheer that ever was. And they partook of meat and drink, with songs and with feasting, and all of the courts upon the earth beheld this was the best supplied with food and drink, and vessels of gold and royal jewels. And the year he spent in hunting, and minstrelsy, and feasting, and diversions, and discourse with his companion, until the night that was fixed for the conflict. And when that night came, it was remembered even by those who lived in the furthest part of the dominions. And he went to the meeting, and the nobles of the kingdom with him. And when he came to the ford, a knight arose and spoke thus. Lord, said he, listen well. It is between two kings that this meeting is, and between them only. Each claimeth of the other his land and territory. And do all of you stand aside and leave the fight to be between them. Thereupon the two kings approached each other in the middle of the ford, and encountered. And at the first thrust, the man who was in the stead of Aran struck Havgan on the center of the boss of his shield, so that it was cloven in twain, and his armor was broken. And Havgan himself was borne to the ground, and arms and a spear's length over the crupper of his horse. And he received a deadly blow. O chieftain, said Havgan, what right hast thou to cause my death? I was not injuring thee in anything, and I know not wherefore thou wouldst slay me. But for the love of heaven, since thou hast begun to slay me, complete thy work. Ah, but for the love of heaven... Ah, chieftain, he replied, I may yet repent doing that unto thee, slay thee who may. I will not do so. My trusty lord, said Havgan, bear me hence. My death is come, I shall be no more. Be no more able to uphold you. My nobles, also said he who was in the semblance of Iran, take counsel and know who ought to be my subjects. Lord, said the nobles, all should be, for there is no king over the whole of Annuin but thee. Yes, he replied, it is right that It is right that he who comes humbly should be received graciously, but he that doth not come with obedience shall be compelled by the force of swords. And thereupon he received the homage of the men, and he began to conquer the country. And the next day by noon the two kingdoms were in his power. And thereupon he went to keep his tryst, and came to Glen Couch. And when he came there, the king of Annuin was there to meet him, and each of them was rejoiced to see the other. Verily, said Iran, may heaven reward thee for thy friendship towards me. I have heard of it, when thou comest thyself to thy dominions. Said he, thou wilt see which I have done for thee. Whatever thou hast done for me, may heaven repay thee. Then Iran gave to Pwyll, prince of Dyfed, his proper form and semblance, and he himself took his own. And Iran set forth towards the court of Annuin, and he was rejoiced when he beheld his host and his household, whom he had not seen for so long. But they had not known of his absence, and wondered no more at his coming than usual. And that day was spent in joy and merriment, and he sat and conversed with his wife and his nobles. And when it was time for them rather to sleep than to carouse, they went to rest. Pwyll, prince of Dyfed, came likewise to his country and dominions, and began to inquire of the nobles of the land, how his rule had been during the past year, compared with what it had been before. Lord, said they, thy wisdom was never so great, and thou was never so kind or so free in bestowing thy gifts, and thy justice was never more worthily seen than in this year. By heaven, said he, for all the good you have enjoyed, you should thank him who hath been with you, for behold, thus hath this matter been. And thereupon Pwyll related the whole unto them. Verily, Lord, said they, render thanks unto heaven that thou hast such a fellowship, and withhold not from us the rule which we have enjoyed for this year past. I take heaven to witness it that I will not withhold it, answered Pwyll. And henceforth they made strong the friendship that was between them, and each sent unto the other horses and greyhounds and hawks, in all such jewels as they thought would be pleasing to each other. And by reason of this, having dwelt that year in Annuin, and having ruled there so prosperously, prosperously, and united the two kingdoms in one day by his valor and prowess. He lost the name of Pwyll, Prince of Dyfed, and was called Pwyll, chief of Annuin from that time forward. Once upon a time Pwyll was at Narbeth, his chief palace, where a feast had been prepared for him. And with him was a great host of men. And after the first meal, Pwyll arose to walk, and he went to the top of a mound that was above that palace, and was called Gorsid Arbeth. Lord, said one of the court, it is peculiar to the mound that whoever sits upon it cannot go thence, without either receiving wounds or blows, or else seeing a wonder. I fear not to receive wounds and blows in the midst of such a host as this, but as to the wonder, gladly would I see it. I will go therefore and sit upon the mound, said Pwyll. And upon the mound he sat, and while he sat there, they saw a lady, on a pure white horse of large size, with a garment of shining gold around her, coming along the highway that led from the mound. And the horse seemed to move at a slow and even pace, and to be coming up towards the mound. My men, said Pwyll, is there any among you who knows yonder lady? There is not, Lord, said they. Go one of you and meet her, that we may know who she is. And one of them arose, and as he came upon the road to meet her, she passed by, and he followed as fast as he could, being on foot. And the greater was his speed, the further was she from him. And when he saw that it profited him nothing to follow her, he returned to Pwyll, and said unto him, Lord, it is idle for anyone in the world to follow her on foot. Verily, said Pwyll, go unto the palace, and take the fleetest horse that thou seest, and go after her. And he took a horse and went forward, and he came to an open level plain, and put spurs to his horse, and the more he urged his horse, the further she was from him. Yet she held the same pace as at first, and his horse began to fail, and when his horse's feet failed him, he returned to his place where Pwyll was. Lord, said he, it will avail nothing for any one to follow yonder lady. I know of no horse in these realms swifter than this, and it availed me not to pursue her. Of a truth, said Pwyll, there must be some illusion here. Let us go towards the palace. So to the palace they went, and they spent that day, and the next day they arose. And that also they spent until it was time to go to meat. And after the first meal, verily, said Pwyll, we will go to the same party as yesterday, to the top of the mound. Verily, said Pwyll, to one of his young men, take the swiftest horse that thou knowest in the field. And thus did the young man. And they went towards the mound, taking the horse with them. And as they were sitting down, they beheld the lady on the same horse, and in the same apparel, coming along the same road. Behold, said Pwyll, here is the lady of yesterday. Make ready, youth, to learn who she is. My lord, said he, that I will gladly do. And thereupon the lady came opposite to them. So the youth mounted the horse, and before he had settled himself in his saddle, she passed by, and there was a clear space between them. But her speed was no greater than it had been the day before. Then he put his horse into an amble, and thought that notwithstanding the gentle pace at which his horse went, he should soon overtake her. But this availed him not. So he gave his horse the reins, and still he came no nearer to her than when he went at a foot's pace. And the more he urged his horse, the further was she from him. Yet she rode not faster than before. When he saw that it availed him not to follow her, he returned to the place where Pwyll was. Lord, said he, the horse can no more than thou hast seen. I see indeed that it avails not that anyone should follow her, and by heaven, said he, she must needs have an errand to someone in this plain, if her haste would allow her to declare it. Let us go back to the palace. And to the palace they went, and they spent that night in songs and feasting, as it pleased them. So, it's kind of funny because the main story of Iran and Pwyll is really quite short, but it's a story that has interested me, I don't know why, but for a while. I think part of it is Annuin itself. To me, it's very much similar and reminds me of the Elvish Otherworld in Lord of the Rings, because it's supposed to be over water in the Celtic legends, or at least some of them. And so, yeah, it definitely evokes these images of a peaceful place where you kind of retire after an earthly career. And Arthur himself, there's a couple stories about where King Arthur is in Celtic mythology, but one of them is that he sailed over to Annuin and resides there. But of course, the most famous and common one is that he's asleep in a mountain in Wales. So, either way, I hope that story was enjoyable. As I mentioned before, some of the language is somewhat archaic, but it creates this fun mystique to the stories, so I find it enjoyable. The story goes on from there for quite a few pages. I could finish it sometime if there's interest, but for now, that's what I wanted to read first. And now I'm gonna have just more chats with you guys. Yeah, so happy Halloween again. I hope everyone has some kind of festivity or tradition they get up to. I'd love to hear in the comments from anybody about their favorite Halloween tradition or something special you get up to. Definitely going to be watching some spooky movies here soon. And one of the ways I've been celebrating as well has just been making different crafts or kind of messing around with art. And so I made a, not entirely complete, but a set of runes out of clay, which was fun. I'll show this one a little closer because I know this camera is not high def. So, got up to that. Here's an Othala rune. Pretty fun. They're just simple little things. Haven't painted them or anything yet. And I don't know if you can see it there, but I've got my little wizard frog chilling next to me while I read. Halloween is such an interesting time of year. Most people don't have any clue where it comes from, which is kind of funny if you think about it. Whereas, like, in contrast, most Westerners will know that Christmas at least largely comes from Christian tradition, even if the date obviously is older than that. Whereas, yeah, Halloween is kind of just this mystical fell out of the sky holiday where people buy and give out candy, wear weird costumes, dance around, and then we kind of just go back to normal for the rest of the year. So it's pretty fun to learn about the origins of it. It's a very controversial topic, which is kind of funny. A lot of ignorance around it. Like people saying that it's like a pagan holiday, which is like true, but also not completely true. Same with saying it's a Christian holiday. There's aspects of it that we take from both. So, but the whole carving pumpkins, wearing weird costumes, the magic of it all, that's pretty ancient for sure. But All Souls Day, All Hallows Eve, these are all Christian holidays as well. So it's both in Western culture. I also kind of find the whole demarcation between that which is Christian and that which is not to be kind of silly sometimes. Like we try and find these strong lines, partially because we don't like the Christian part of our history. A lot of people, we're in this romantic era where the older the better. But the reality is, like, it's all kind of cool, and if you weed through it, there's just really interesting stories all throughout the tradition. So I wouldn't go too hard on either side of it, the Christian or the pagan, or like say that it's one or the other all by itself. Just enjoy the season and the holiday and take in the festivities. I really wish I could go do a classic day of like bobbing for apples, doing a corn maze, different scary stuff like that. Haven't been able to do that yet though. We'll see. Season's almost over, so maybe next year. But yeah, I hope this video seems a little less off the cuff. A lot of my videos are kind of off the cuff. Part of that is I just want to keep the channel active and respect my subscribers by providing something to watch. But I don't always have like a crazy topic cooked up or some big script. I really never have a script. And so sometimes I just have to strike when the iron's hot, turn on the camera and talk about something that interests me. But I definitely want to do more like this, where I sit down with kind of more of a goal, more of a setup, and kind of just do something as a project or a contained thing, even though this is still pretty casual. So, thanks for hanging out with me. I think it'd be really cool if we had something like Mexicans have, where around this time of year we would go to graveyards or places that we associate with the deceased and take care of the graves, groom things, manicure things, talk with our relatives about our passed on loved ones. I think that's something that's kind of definitely missing from this whole season, because we have all the macabre imagery. I don't have any nearby here, but skulls, skeletons, tombstones, etc. But we kind of lost like what that actually means and why we honor it, or kind of parade those images around, which is that, yeah, there's people who are dead who we used to know, or somebody used to know, and so it's kind of a season to remember them, and instead of treating them like these distant, not real things anymore, you act like they're around, so you take care of them or talk about them or talk to them, which can be really healthy if you lost someone that you love deeply. Otherwise, it's just kind of parading skulls around for the sake of parading skulls around, and then you can see why some people think it's a little strange, which strange is not bad, but it can be a little strange. So yeah, I like that. I like honoring the dead, for sure. I'd be curious if any of my Indian subscribers or subscribers from somewhere other than North America, if you guys have any Halloween-esque traditions or things like that where you kind of celebrate the spooky side of life. And I don't know how to really put it, because Halloween's a funny holiday. But yeah, celebrate the chthonic, dark, nighttime side of life. Because I feel like you almost certainly do. And I would love to learn about your traditions. So, yeah, let me know if you get a chance. But I think that'll be about it for this hangout. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Hope it's been entertaining. And really the main goal is that, hope it's been relaxing. Something you can kind of just put on, do something, make your fall apple cider, and chill out. So, yeah, thanks for chilling with me. Really appreciate you guys. Have a good Halloween. Hope it has everything that you want it to. You're able to see the people you want to see. And yeah, have a good one. Stay healthy. Thank you very much. See you guys.